I suppose not only does this risk sort of deepening fears and stigma around growing older, but it stops us finding solutions that work for people at any age. So we're trying to pose the question, I suppose, this morning, that rather than just tackling loneliness in later life, should we focus more on creating the communities where social connections can thrive throughout our lives? And it's great to be here in Leeds, not only because it's a fantastic city and it's my hometown, but you know, some really good reasons why we want to host an event that's looking at these issues in Leeds today. One is that the Centre for Ageing Better has got a strategic partnership with Leeds City Council and Leeds Older People's Forum. We signed that about a year ago. It's a 5-year partnership, and obviously it supports the city's ambition to be the best city to grow old in. In our first year, we've been working together to trial innovative approaches to community transport, to improve housing information and advice, and also to kind of better understand and support the many ways that people in later life contribute to their communities. And over the lifetime of the partnership, I suppose we expect to work together on a range of issues that matter for a good later life. Also, Leeds has got great ambitions and a track record in this area, really. I mean, those of you who've read the Health and Wellbeing Strategy, you know, we know that Leeds wants to be a city, a health and caring city for all ages, and it also aims to be both an age-friendly city for people as we age, but also a child-friendly city where people make the best start in life. And so I think really, you know, that's another reason where it makes a perfect setting for the topic we're going to talk about today. And finally, I suppose, you know, a lot of you will be involved and familiar with the ways people are working in the city, and definitely Leeds has really been championing and piloting a range of asset-based community approaches, and I think really recognising and celebrating the role of neighbourhoods, particularly with things like our kind of Leeds neighbourhood networks. And again, you know, one of these kind of central pillar of this kind of approach is that, you know, for everyone in Leeds to have 3 good friends. And I think it would be pretty hard for people in the room to argue that actually we're talking about issues around loneliness. This is really all about relationships and the kind of genuine friendships that we all want, no matter our age. Just want to acknowledge and thank Humans of Leeds for allowing us to display this fantastic photography exhibition. It's called Now Then. Fantastic Yorkshire phrase. So, and again, really encourage people to have a look. I mean, this is really a kind of exhibition that's trying to, I suppose, highlight a kind of often a forgotten generation of older people who might face issues such as loneliness and isolation. And I think this is a really fantastic exhibition that kind of celebrates their lives, their passions, and their contributions. And we've got Zabia, where's Zabia? Oh, look, waving at the back. So, you know, if people want to find out more about the exhibition or are interested in maybe displaying it in some work that you're doing, then please, Zabir is very happy for people to come talk to him at the end. Some of you might have noticed, here, and we're live streaming this discussion across the world on our YouTube channel this morning, and obviously it'll be recorded so people can view it after the event, so you might be able to spot yourself on the telly. And also please do tweet if that's your kind of thing. We've got hashtag loneliness, hashtag Ageing Better events, and we really would encourage people to tweet interesting things or questions or comments, and again trying to encourage other people that can't be here in the room to engage with the debate. Just some practical stuff. I hope you've all found, you know, I hope you've been fed and watered. There's plenty of food and drink out there. The toilets are out there on the left, I think, as you go out of the corridor. We're not expecting a fire alarm today, so again, we go out here, turn right and down the stairs and congregate outside. Okay, I think that's enough. That's enough from me, isn't it? So I think it'd be good to get cracking, I suppose, and think about today's topic. And we've got a fantastic all-female panel today. Again, something quite unusual. And I think, you know, we're going to hear from them in a moment. And I suppose we're inviting everybody individually to give a kind of short opening talk, and what we want these to do, I suppose, is to help just stimulate, you know, a lively discussion and debate to follow. And once all the panellists have spoken, then I'll open up the floor for questions. So whilst you are listening, I'm sure you'll all be listening very intently to every word that they say, but Whilst you're doing that, if you can think of any comments or burning questions, then that would be fantastic. So let's get started. So I'd like to introduce first Rachel Cavonium, and she's the acting CEO of Leeds Older People's Forum.
I am indeed. Good morning. Lovely to see so many people here, and great to see so many hopefully friendly faces. Really good to be here. And I agree, it's great to have this kind of discussion in Leeds. It's wonderful that we're not sat in London, we're sat in Leeds, and we're proud of it. So fantastic. Thank you so much for the invitation, and great to be part of this. So, loneliness absolutely is an age-old story. It's not something new, it's not something we've just discovered recently, although sometimes it can feel that way with the exposure and, you know, the way that it's talked about. But I am the interim CEO of Leeds Older People's Forum. We're about to celebrate our 25th anniversary, and when I look back through the archives, I could find documentation talking about how do we tackle social isolation and loneliness toolkits that predate me and the rest of the team by a long, long way. So this is not something that is a malaise of the 21st century. When we look at older people and loneliness and isolation, which is, you know, my passion and what I'm here to talk about today, and, you know, to take questions on, 13% of older people say that they are either lonely all the time or often. That figure hasn't changed for the past 50 years, and for me that is quite staggering, because, as I say, it's not a new phenomenon, loneliness and isolation. I think we know quite a lot about loneliness and isolation. We know what the triggers are. We know if somebody is coming up to retirement or is recently retired, is bereaved. We know there's a greater likeliness of somebody becoming isolated. We know the impact. I'm sure we've all heard the statistics about the impact on loneliness and on the detrimental effect on somebody's health. But what we don't really know, or haven't known up until now, is what makes that difference. What will actually budge that figure that we've had for 50 years. So in Leeds, just to put it into context, we estimate there are 37,000 older people living with social isolation and loneliness. And the Time to Shine programme, which is managed through Leeds Older People, is really looking at identifying who those people are, understanding more about their isolation, and crucially thinking, well, what will make the difference for that person? In Leeds, we did some research back in 2012 now, going back a little way, but we have continued to check out that this is true. The people who are most likely to be isolated, people aged 50 plus in Leeds, are carers, people with a caring responsibility, those older people who are living alone, older people who are bereaved, and people who we've said social or cultural needs are not met. So by that we mean people in our BAME population, but also our LGBT older people and people with learning disabilities as well. If you look at the national statistics, women, it says that women are more isolated, tend to be more isolated or lonely. Actually, what we found in Leeds was complete reverse. So it's in Leeds, older men are more isolated, and I think we've looked at where can we make a difference there. So as I say, isolation, loneliness, not new concepts, and not new concepts in Leeds. Not something that Time to Shine and Leeds Older People's Forum has suddenly magically found, and we're championing. You mentioned the Neighbourhood Networks, Claire. Absolutely, such pride in Leeds Neighbourhood Networks, and it's great to see managers and people from the networks here this morning. If you don't know, we've got 37 neighbourhood networks in Leeds, individual charities really based within a locality, set up and managed by older people. Key part of the work that neighbourhood networks do is to reach socially isolated older people. Absolutely vital, and have been looking and working with these issues for, you know, a couple of decades now. Age-friendly Leeds, mentioned we've got child-friendly Leeds and also age-friendly Leeds, looking at really positive ways. I don't know if anyone's seen the Come In and Rest campaign. Yeah, really practical ways that we can make sure that Leeds is a more age-friendly city. And then Time to Shine, 6-year programme, funded through the Big Lottery, one of 13 programmes across England. Also great to see colleagues from, I know from Bristol here, all across England tackling these issues. Okay, so what we found in the 3 years through Time to Shine, absolutely, relationships. That is what is going to make a difference, we believe. Relationships that are built on reciprocity, so that it's two ways. It's not about an older person and what you can give to that older person. It's what that older person, what we all give to each other. Friendship, not just relationship, it's friendship. What we found is befriending gives a real increase in the sense of well-being, but it's only friendship that really decreases social isolation. We were talking earlier about Across the Life course, and that isolation isn't an issue for older people. I think if we take life as a series of transitions and some periods in our life that most of us are likely to go through, and think, okay, at that point, are we more or less likely to become isolated? Maybe we can start to see a bit of a shift in these levels of isolation. One of the things that we say in Time to Shine is loneliness is not a natural consequence of getting older. We truly believe that. It is about a positive older age. And I think we really need to look at it's not inevitable, that there are definitely things that we can look at through the life course and start to plan. Nobody plans to be lonely, but I think maybe we should start to plan definitely not to be lonely. So, yeah.
And now I'd like to introduce Andrea Ellison, who's the Chief Librarian at Leeds City Council.
Okay, I've got a few slides, so should I just... So I should preface that by saying I'm still fairly new to being Chief Librarian of Leeds City Council, and there's a lot to learn. So I've been in the post now just over 12 months.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Yes. I'll stand up. I'll stand up, and is that a little bit better?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, I'll stand up. So this is Leeds Libraries. It's not the whole story, but I would argue it's a very important part of the story. I think there is a narrative out there around the decline of libraries, but I think the reality is you would find it we're actually a really vibrant service, particularly here in Leeds. I think there's a lack of awareness generally about the scale and take-up of library services. Did you know, for example, that nationally public libraries receive more visits down to the Premier League football games, to the cinema and the top 10 attractions combined? I think that's a pretty amazing fact. So in Leeds we have, as I say, we have 34 libraries across the city, and we have 8 mobile libraries, and they're open for around 1,500 hours a week. And every year we have in excess of 2.4 million visits to our libraries here in Leeds. And I think really what these figures demonstrate is our reach into the community, and I think they also evidence the potential for a very meaningful contribution for the library service to make to this agenda. So, first of all, oops, a little bit skew with that, but never mind. So first of all, our public libraries offer access to spaces. And I think the crucial point here is they're spaces for connections as well as collections.